Today is July 15th, 2024. Just 2 days earlier, there was an attempt on former President Donald Trump's life at a rally. I'm doing this video because as the last 2 days, news and other voices coming out, I just had to say something because I remember as a former evangelical Pentecostal pastor, everything in the world was black and white. If it wasn't God, it was the devil. If it wasn't heaven, it was hell. If it wasn't good, it was bad. Everything was divided into God and the devil. And I'm seeing all over the place, Christians specifically, that's what I'm wanting to talk about, how their God was protecting Trump, the devil tried to kill him. And yet, okay, first, I should just say, obviously, trying to kill someone is absolutely deplorable, terrible. I don't care who the attempt was. And in fact, one person has died and two other people were critically injured in this assassination attempt. Any normal moral person is going to know that that's bad. And I've even seen some people on the far extreme right, like, good riddance, too bad he missed and all that. Those people are crazy. But also on the far right side, to say that this was an attempt on God's life, like Donald Trump somehow represents Jesus Christ in the world today. And I remember that early on. For me, I've never really been that political. I just vote. That's the main thing I just do every year. I vote. But man, I'm telling you, and of course, this year, come on, let's just be honest. It's absolutely insane. Like, is this the two best people that we can come up with? Really? It's just embarrassing, to be honest. From my perspective, it's embarrassing. Anyway, I remember back when former President Barack Obama, and I was a full-on evangelical, fundamental, charismatic Christian at this point. And I remember how we, including myself, were painting Barack Obama as the Antichrist. And I don't mean symbolically. It was teaching and running around in the circles that I was running in that he actually was the Antichrist. It wasn't like a pseudo Antichrist, that he was the Antichrist. And it was, the end times are near. It's coming to an end. And it's the same BS that you hear today from the fundamental evangelical, like end times, Jesus is coming back, the rapture, the good and evil. It's a war. It's a tug of war between God and Satan. This is just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely just crazy talk. Yes, was this bad or evil? Well, of course, anybody with a brain knows that. But was this Satan? Was this literally Satan? Was this guy demon possessed? Was the shooter demon possessed? And he was trying to take out God's man of the hour? No, that's not what it was, man. Some people are just boofed up in the head. Some people get into, who knows? I don't know. I don't know what this person was thinking, but clearly, who knows, right? There's already a bunch of conspiracy theories out there. Who knows what's going to shake out once they find everything out. But, it tends to kind of look like he was just an extremist, a solo extremist, and felt like if I take out the competition, then, the other side will win. No competition, no threat, or I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not political. I come from the spiritual world. In fact, I'm trying to be more educated now that I'm not religious. It's so I don't know, and politically, I find myself to be more moderate anyway. And so it seems like online people are either far right nutballs or they are far left nutballs. And I think most all of us kind of live in the middle somewhere. but but to make this into some kind of a war between God and the devil is part of the toxic, ridiculous, false, mythical teaching that is so prevalent in the church. It's not that, hey, no, we prefer Biden over Trump, or we prefer Trump over Biden, or we prefer this candidate over this candidate, or we, you know, clearly politics are messy. And it seems like there's a lot of corruption in there, just like there's a lot of corruption in a lot of organized things, including the church. Let's not forget all the stuff that went on with the Catholic Church not too long ago. Or to mention the circles I come out of. I don't know if you followed any of the Hillsong. This Hillsong. If you haven't, there's a Netflix special on Carl Lentz and Hillsong and all of that stuff. Now, I mean, it's just wild. There's so many wild things going on out there. But to label these things as this is the devil, or this is God, like God, like really, you think God has picked Donald Trump, or some of you think God has picked Biden? It's just like God has picked the Chiefs. I believe God is on the side of Patrick Mahomes. No, God's not on anybody's side like that. It's whoever's the best, participating as a team. Who has the best hands to catch the ball? Who has the best arm to throw the ball? It's about talent. Has nothing to do with God. Has nothing to do with the devil. None of the stuff going on in the world has anything to do with a war between good and evil, God and the devil. Life just is. Things just are. Stuff happens. Wild things happen because people are goofed up in the head and have wild ideas, and they get goofy. I know. Listen, I was in the goofy world for a long time. I believed so much of what I'm now seeing the Christians say about God and the devil and what side is God on. Clearly, God's on this side, and God wants this person to win, and God doesn't want this person to win, or God. Clearly, none of that's true. I don't believe any of that to be true. Now, what's better for democracy? What's better for what? But it's not God, and it's not the devil fighting it out. Okay, this political race is not good versus evil. This is not God versus the devil. And here's what's so fascinating. I was talking to someone that's a Trump fan or a Trump supporter, and that's what they think. They think that God literally has handpicked Trump. Trump is the handpicked, God ordained person, right? I mean, you guys remember all the craziness that happened, 4 years ago or whatever? Just all that crazy thing, all of it was crazy. The insurrection was crazy, January 6th. Everything was so crazy 4 years ago. How that, Trump was elected, but he wasn't actually coming out to show that he was elected yet, that there was going to be a big coup, and all this I just remember all the conspiracy theories, all the QAnon weirdo nut, and wildly a lot of that weird conspiratorial QAnon drinking the blood of children, adrenochrome stuff came out of the Christians, out of the far right fundamental weird stuff. I saw pastors teaching on this stuff. Thank goodness I was already exiting out of that world when that came into play. I'm not sure, and I actually saw a show not too long ago that, like a documentary-ish type show, and it said there was a pretty strong correlation with those that believed in conspiracy theories and far right, or specifically Christian, evangelical, fundamental Pentecostal Christians, were often at the leaders of these conspiracy theories. Like they were at the very forefront of these wackadoodle ideas. But I literally was talking to someone who's a Trump supporter, and he was telling me that God had even revealed to him that in prayer that God has handpicked Trump to be the leader of the free world, to be the next president, and that Biden was literally the axis of all evil and employed by the devil himself. And literally believe this, like literally believes that that Biden has sold his soul to the devil. And yeah, my ears couldn't hardly even believe what I was hearing. And then I recently also had a conversation with someone who's a Biden fan, and they are Christian, and they believe that this is a war between good and evil, and that Biden was the savior. Now they weren't as extreme to say that like God had anointed Biden, but that they just thought that Biden was the man of the hour, and that God, wants Biden to win, and that Trump was the axis of all evil. And I'm just like, well, both of those can't be true. It's like so either, of course, both are wrong, but either one's right and the other's wrong, or this one's right and that one's wrong. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so absolutely nutty out there when you start talking to people and what they think and what they feel and how they are aligned. But there is such a wild thing right now coming out of the evangelical camp that Trump is divinely protected by God. One pastor said something like, Trump's guardian angel, nudged Trump's head over so that the bullet, missed him. Well, it didn't totally miss him, but luckily, I'm sure there's a very natural explanation of why he missed. There was no guardian angel that pushed the bullet over or pushed Trump over. Was this guy a sharpshooter? I don't know. Does this guy have any skills? I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. Did Trump move his head just at the last minute, just by sheer like things happen, and here's what's just wild. Had Trump been assassinated, then there would have been this whole the devil won this one. But there's always this spin between God and the devil. And clearly I don't believe in God or the devil, so whatever. But isn't God more powerful? Like, if that was all true, like, what's the problem? Can't God just, like, if he's truly God, the all-powerful supreme being, can't he just like get rid of the devil or subvert the devil? Like, if that was true, like if what the Christians believe, if Trump is really God's man, then, well, don't you think Trump should act better? I think that's something that should probably happen. I don't think he's a very good representation of what I would consider is in alignment with what the Christians believe God to be. Also screwy, also nutty. Again, Timmy Gibson, former evangelical Pentecostal pastor. Now I'm agnostic, but I'm sharing my stories and sharing some of the crazy, wild beliefs that I used to have, some of the crazy, wild experiences that I've had over the years. I mean, I spent 50 years as a Christian, 30 years as a pastor. Now, what, 20 of those? So 10 of those years was youth pastoring and working in other capacities. And then the last 20 years were as the senior pastor, the leader of my own church. And I just look back on that time, and now as someone that, I'm an outsider now, I'm an unbeliever, someone that now looks into that world, I'm shocked that I used to believe it. To be very frank with you, I just sometimes hang my head and just shake my head and go, I used to say that. I used to believe that. I was telling someone the other day, they were talking about yoga. And I said, that brings up an interesting point. I said, that I used to think that yoga was an exercise for an incantation for the devil, that was devil worship. It was a form of devil worship, that yoga was a form of devil worship. I know, I don't know what to tell you, and I'm still learning and growing and trying to understand. And, my worldview has just flipped completely upside down to where, I don't look at the world anything like I used to. And it's an unbelievable journey, to be honest. It's just an unbelievable journey. And to now be on the outside, having been on the inside, it just goes back to, it's an echo chamber. When I was in that world, all my friends were in that world. Everything I consumed was in that world. Every book I read, everything that I did was just in that world. So it didn't seem weird to preach and say things like Barack Obama is the Antichrist, and we need to pray that God will allow, who was it running against Bush? I guess I can't remember. It's like, I remember being avidly against Barack Obama back then, like avidly, aggressively antichrist. I was against Barack Obama because Barack Obama was the Antichrist. Unbelievable. Now, I don't care, like, which side you lean on politically. That's a very personal, private thing. But when religion gets in there and people start trying to put God, if Jesus was on the earth today, he would be a Republican. He'd be the Democrat. No, he wouldn't. He'd be independent. I don't think he'd be either. And the truth is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you, it seemed more like a Democrat, really, when you think about it. Giving to the poor and, honoring women and, so whatever. I that is just when religiosity gets so goofy, so weird, so nutty, and so, listen, I know I say a lot of things. This is my channel. I'll say whatever I want. It's my channel, clearly. Um, that's part of what this is all about. It's just everybody has their own YouTube channel and they do what they want. That's what I'm doing. But when I think back to how I would assimilate information and how I tried to put everything into some kind of a religious context, even so much as I would sometimes, before I would go do something for the day, I would pray that God would lead me and guide me in every step of my way. That I would only go where he wants me to go. I would only buy the things that he wants me to buy. That I would only say the things that he wants me to say. Now clearly I understand that I was talking to myself. The voice in my head was just my voice in my head. And giving myself advice. In fact, I still have the voice in my head, right? I still have the voice that'll say, you know what, go left rather than right because it might be better because of traffic or this or that or the other. And then I go that way and it's like, wow, this was better. And then come to find out there was an accident over here, or there was traffic, or the bridge was out. And so it was a good thing I went this way. Well, I don't even believe in God anymore like that. So, well, that's just because common sense and normal smarts. And I know the city that I live in, and I know that there was construction. And so I saw that there might be traffic up there. So I went left. But back then I turned everything to be very like spiritual. Like everything was, yeah, God spoke to me this morning and said, I should only eat this, or God spoke to me this morning and said this, or God spoke to me this morning. I even did that back when I was a teenager. I'll never forget this. Back when I was living sinful as a teenager and having premarital sex, I remember I would feel so guilty afterwards, just so guilty. I'd go to the altar that Sunday morning and just ask God to forgive me for my lustful feelings towards women. And, then the recycle just kept repeating itself. But I remember there were times that I would say to other people, I'd say, I was just praying and God said, don't sleep with her. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's like, what? This is all so weird. It's all so goofy. And it makes otherwise, intelligent, pretty normal seeming people to seem so weird. It'd be like talking to someone that seems very, very normal. And then they say, yeah, well, I'm really excited. Santa's coming to our house this Christmas Eve, and I've laid out the cookies and the milk. We would be like, oh, yeah, we did too for the kids. And then they're like, no, really, for real. Like, Santa comes to our house for real, and he really eats the cookie. And like, we would be like, what is wrong with this person? Right? We'd be like, what is happening right now? Well, sometimes that's how I feel when I'm talking to uber religious people. It's like, are we talking about Santa? What are we talking about right now? I don't understand. Though, because I come from that world, I do understand. And you can be in some, I was in it for 50 years. I was in it so long that it didn't seem weird at all. In fact, it seemed rather normal to have an imaginary invisible friend that no one could see except for me, and no one talked to except for me, or those that also had their imaginary friend and they talked to them too, just like I did. Like it seemed so normal because it was just the world that I lived in. But now that I'm outside of that world, yeah, you peek over the fence sometimes and you're just like, what in the world is going on? All right, guys, Timmy Gibson, comment, cuss, discuss, do all the stuff, subscribe, more videos like this, sharing my story, my experience of being an evangelical, fundamental, Pentecostal, Bible thumping, tongue talking pastor for 30 years, a Christian for nearly 50 years. I've got stories for days, y'all. Peace, blessings.